You're chasing 10 goals. You'll reach none. Chase one goal. You'll reach 10. What if everything you want requires wanting less? Most people die with their list unfinished. A few die with their mission complete. The difference? They stopped adding, started subtracting. This audiobook kills your wish list. It births your one true want. By the end, you'll know which desire rules them all, and why that singular focus unlocks everything else. Let me tell you about two people I know. Same age, same industry, same starting point. One has a vision board with 37 goals on it. The other has a single sentence written on a card in his wallet. 10 years later, the first person is still updating her vision board, still adding new dreams, still attending workshops on manifestation. The second person built a company that changed his industry, wrote a book that sold 2 million copies, and now mentors 100 entrepreneurs. He never updated his card. He never needed to. It still says the same thing it said a decade ago. The difference between these two people isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't even work ethic. The difference is that one person has infinite wants and the other has certain desire. This is the distinction that will change everything for you. But first we need to understand why you're drowning in desire right now and why that's exactly what's keeping you from getting what you actually want. Your brain is not designed for the world you live in. Your ancestors faced scarcity, limited choices, clear threats. They wanted food, safety, and reproduction. Those desires were sharp and simple. Your brain inherited that architecture, but now it lives in an environment of infinite options. Every day you're exposed to thousands of images of lives you could live, products you could buy, skills you could learn, places you could go, people you could become. Your ancient brain treats each exposure as a potential desire. It lights up. It releases dopamine. It whispers that this new thing might be what finally makes you happy. This is the dopamine trap. New desires feel better than finished goals. The anticipation of something you might want triggers more pleasure than the achievement of something you already wanted. Your brain evolved to keep seeking because in a world of scarcity, the seeker survived. But in a world of abundance, the seeker drowns. You scroll through social media and see someone's yoga retreat in Bali. Your brain codes that as a desire. You see someone's side business making 6 figures. Your brain adds that to the list. You read about someone learning Japanese. Your brain whispers that maybe you should too. By the end of a single day online, you've accumulated 17 new desires. None of them are real. None of them are yours. But your brain can't tell the difference between a true desire and an algorithmic suggestion. The attention economy knows this about you. It profits from it. Every platform, every advertisement, every influencer is optimized to plant new desires in your mind. They need you to want more because wanting is the precursor to buying. They need you scattered because scattered people click more, buy more, stay longer. Your fragmented attention is their revenue model. They win when you lose focus. They profit when you can't commit. The entire architecture of modern life is designed to give you infinite wants and insufficient time to pursue any of them. This is not an accident. This is not your fault. But it is your problem to solve. Consider the math. You have approximately 16 waking hours each day. Let's say you need 2 hours for basic maintenance like eating and hygiene. That leaves you 14 hours. If you have 10 goals that you're seriously pursuing, each goal gets 84 minutes of daily attention. Except you don't work that way. You have context-switching costs. Every time you shift from one goal to another, you lose 15 to 20 minutes to mental transition. You need to remember where you were. You need to rebuild momentum. You need to overcome the activation energy of starting. So in reality, each of your 10 goals gets maybe 40 minutes of actual productive focus. 40 minutes per day is not enough to master anything. It's not enough to build anything significant. It's barely enough to maintain basic competence. 40 minutes per day means you'll spend years on something that should take months. It means you'll plateau early and stay there. It means you'll have 10 mediocre efforts instead of one exceptional result. But the math gets worse. Because you don't actually have 10 goals. You have 10 stated goals and 30 unstated desires. You want to write a book, but you also want to learn guitar. But you also want to get in shape, but you also want to learn to code. But you also want to start a podcast. But you also want to travel more, but you also want to improve your relationships, but you also want to meditate daily, but you also want to read more, but you also want to cook better meals. Each of these feels important. Each of these feels like it could be the thing that finally makes you feel fulfilled, so you try to do all of them. You do none of them well. You end the year with 40 partial efforts and 0 complete victories. Sound familiar? There's a reason this pattern feels so familiar. It's the default mode of modern life. Walk into any bookstore and the self-help section will tell you to find your passion, follow your bliss, create your vision board, manifest your dreams, and design your ideal life. All of that advice assumes that more wanting is better. That clarity comes from exploring all your options, that you should keep your possibilities open. This is terrible advice. It's advice that keeps you stuck. It's advice that sells more books but doesn't change more lives. Because the truth is the opposite. Less wanting gets you more. Singular focus beats scattered effort. Certainty defeats curiosity. The person with one burning obsession will always outperform the person with 10 mild interests. Let me prove it to you. Think about anyone you consider truly successful in any domain. World-class athletes, groundbreaking scientists, legendary artists, revolutionary entrepreneurs. What do they have in common? They all had one thing they cared about more than everything else. Michael Jordan didn't dabble in basketball while also pursuing a jazz career and learning carpentry. He played basketball with obsessive, almost pathological focus. Marie Curie didn't split her attention between physics, painting, and poetry. She focused on radioactivity until she won 2 Nobel Prizes. Hemingway didn't write novels between equally important pursuits in accounting and gardening. He wrote. He wrote when he was happy. He wrote when he was miserable. He wrote because it was the only thing that mattered. This is the pattern. This is always the pattern. Singular desire creates exceptional results. Multiple desires create mediocre distribution. But here's what most people miss. The reason these exceptional people focused wasn't because they were more disciplined than you. It wasn't because they had some special genetic gift for concentration. It was because they had certainty about what mattered. They knew what they wanted with a depth and intensity that made everything else irrelevant. This is the key distinction. Most people have interests. A few people have certainty. Interest is when something sounds appealing. Certainty is when something becomes inevitable. Interest is when you think about it occasionally. Certainty is when you can't stop thinking about it. Interest is when you pursue it if circumstances permit. Certainty is when you pursue it despite circumstances preventing. Interest fades when it gets difficult. Certainty intensifies when it gets difficult. How do you know if something is a true desire or just an interest? There's a test. It's 3 a.m. You can't sleep. Your mind is racing. What is it racing about? If your mind naturally gravitates toward one particular thing, one particular problem, one particular vision, that's your signal. That's where the certainty lives. If your mind bounces between 7 different topics, you have 7 interests and 0 certainty. The middle of the night mind doesn't lie. It doesn't perform. It doesn't try to impress anyone. It goes where your real desire lives. Pay attention to where your mind goes when it's unsupervised. That's your compass. There's another test, the sacrifice audit. What would you give up to pursue this desire? Would you give up comfort? Would you give up status? Would you give up the approval of your family? Would you give up financial security for 5 years? Would you give up your current relationship? Would you give up your health? I'm not saying you should give up these things. I'm saying that true desire reveals itself in what you're willing to trade. Interest says I'll pursue this if it doesn't cost too much. Certainty says I'll pay whatever it costs. When you look at your list of goals, which one would you sacrifice the others for? That's your answer. That's your one thing. If you can't answer that question quickly, you don't have certain desire yet. You have a collection of maybes. Now let's talk about what happens in your body when you have certain desire versus scattered wanting. When you're pursuing your one true thing, your biology changes. Cortisol drops. Heart rate variability improves. Sleep quality increases. You enter flow states more easily and more often. Time distorts. Hours feel like minutes. You forget to eat. You look up and realize it's dark outside. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is measurable neurochemistry. Your brain releases more dopamine when you're pursuing certain desire than when you're scattering across multiple wants. The dopamine pattern is different too. It's sustained rather than spiked. It's intrinsic rather than extrinsic. You're not chasing the high of. Compare this to the biology of scattered desire. You wake up with decision fatigue before you even get out of bed. Should you work on goal A or goal B or goal C? Your cortisol spikes. Your body interprets the chronic indecision as a threat. You never enter deep flow because you're always partially thinking about the other things you should be doing. You finish the day exhausted but not satisfied. You were busy but not productive. You moved but you didn't progress. This is the biological cost of too many desires. Your body knows what your mind won't admit. You can't serve multiple masters. Your nervous system can only optimize for one thing at a time. Let's look at a real example. There was an entrepreneur I knew who was running 3 businesses simultaneously. A software company, a consulting practice, a real estate investment portfolio. He told himself this was diversification. He told himself this was smart business. He told himself he was maximizing his potential. What he actually was, exhausted, mediocre at 3 things instead of exceptional at 1. His software company was growing slowly because he could only dedicate 2 days a week to it. His consulting practice was maintaining but not expanding because he was always traveling for his real estate deals. His real estate portfolio was fine but not exceptional because he didn't have time to source the best deals. He was making decent money. He was impressively busy. He was completely unfulfilled. Then something happened. His largest consulting client went bankrupt and didn't pay their final invoice. $60,000 gone. He had to make a choice. He could scramble to replace that client, or he could see it as a sign. He chose the sign. He shut down the consulting practice entirely. He sold half his real estate portfolio. He went all in on the software company. Within 18 months, that company went from $200,000 in revenue to $2 million. Within 3 years, he sold it for 8 figures. The math is brutal and beautiful. 3 businesses making okay money versus 1 business making life-changing money. 3 fragmented identities versus 1 clear purpose. 3 sources of stress versus 1 source of flow. He didn't succeed because he finally worked harder. He succeeded because he finally worked singular. This is the pattern you'll see everywhere once you start looking for it. Scattered effort produces scattered results. Focused effort produces exponential results. But focus isn't just about time management or productivity hacks. Focus is about desire management. You can't focus your effort until you focus your wanting. Most people are trying to solve a behavior problem when they actually have a desire problem. They read books on time management. They try new productivity systems. They wake up earlier. They batch their tasks. None of it works for long because they're still trying to pursue 10 things. You can't hack your way around the fundamental constraint. There's only one of you. You can only become one thing. You can only master one domain. You can only build one legacy. I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking this sounds extreme. You're thinking life should be balanced. You're thinking it's possible to be a Renaissance person who excels at multiple things. You're thinking about all the reasons why you can't just focus on one thing. You have responsibilities. You have a mortgage. You have a family. You have obligations. I hear you. And I'm not suggesting you abandon your responsibilities or become an obsessive hermit who ignores everything except one goal. What I'm suggesting is much simpler and much harder. I'm suggesting you get honest about which desire is the real one and which desires are just noise. I'm suggesting you stop pretending that everything on your list matters equally. I'm suggesting you stop lying to yourself about being able to do it all. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. Every yes to something is a no to something else. When you say yes to writing your novel, you're saying no to starting that side business. When you say yes to building your company, you're saying no to being the parent who's at every school event. When you say yes to training for that marathon, you're saying no to late nights with friends. There are no free lunches. There are no having it all options. There are only trade-offs. The question is whether you're making conscious trade-offs in service of your one true desire or unconscious trade-offs that serve nothing. Most people are making unconscious trade-offs. They're saying no to their real desire by saying yes to everything else. They're spending their life energy on the urgent and the easy and the socially acceptable, while their one true thing withers from neglect. So let's get practical. Let's figure out what your one thing actually is. Not what you think it should be. Not what would sound impressive at a dinner party. Not what your parents want for you. Not what you studied in college. Not what you've been doing for the past 10 years out of momentum. What is the thing that you think about when nobody's asking? What's the thing that makes you jealous when you see someone else doing it? What's the thing that you've been pushing down and pushing away because it seems impractical or impossible or too late? That's your signal. That jealousy is information. That persistent thought is a message. That impossible dream is actually your assignment. Let me give you a framework. Warren Buffett supposedly told his pilot to make a list of his top 25 career goals. Then Buffett told him to circle the top 5. The pilot assumed the next instruction would be to start working on those top 5 while keeping the other 20 on his radar. But that's not what Buffett said. He said the other 20 goals, the ones that didn't make the top 5, those are your avoid-at-all-costs list. Those are the goals that will distract you from your real priorities. Those are the desires that seem important but are actually dangerous. They're dangerous because they're good enough to attract your attention, but not good enough to deserve your life. We're going to do something even more extreme. We're going to get you down to 1, maybe 3 at the absolute maximum. Everything else goes on the kill list. I want you to try something right now. Pause for a moment after this next sentence and just breathe. Take a slow breath in through your nose for 4 counts. Hold it for 4 counts. Release it through your mouth for 6 counts. Do this 3 times. As you breathe, let your mind settle. Let the noise quiet down. Let the should-dos and the supposed-tos and the everyone else is doing its fade into the background. Just breathe and notice what rises to the surface when everything else gets quiet. There's a desire in there that's been waiting for your attention. It's been there for years, maybe decades. You know what it is. You've always known what it is. The question is whether you're finally ready to admit it. Now I want you to think about your current life. Picture a typical Tuesday. You wake up. You go through your day. You do your work. You handle your responsibilities. You interact with people. You come home. You do whatever you do in the evening. You go to sleep. Now ask yourself this. Is that Tuesday moving you toward your one true desire or away from it? Is the life you're living aligned with the thing you actually want, or is it aligned with the things you think you're supposed to want? Be honest, nobody's listening. Nobody's judging. It's just you and the truth. If your Tuesdays aren't moving you toward your real desire, why not? What would have to change? What would you have to give up? What would you have to start saying no to? Most people discover that their entire life is organized around desires they don't actually have. They're living someone else's dream, their parents' dream, their spouse's dream, their culture's dream, society's dream. They went to law school because their father was a lawyer. They started a business because entrepreneurship is having a moment. They moved to the suburbs because that's what you do when you have kids. They're pursuing financial independence because the internet told them to. None of these things are bad, but if they're not your thing, they're the wrong thing. You can live a perfectly good life pursuing someone else's desires. You'll never live a great life that way. You'll never feel that deep satisfaction of becoming who you actually are. Let me tell you about someone else I know. She's a doctor, successful by any external measure, 6-figure income, respected in her community, good at her work, and absolutely miserable because she never wanted to be a doctor. She wanted to be a photographer. But photography wasn't practical. Photography wasn't stable. Photography wasn't impressive at family gatherings. So she spent 8 years in medical training, then another 10 years building her practice. Then one day she woke up at 42 years old and realized she'd spent 20 years of her life becoming someone she never wanted to be. She had pursued a desire that wasn't hers. She had climbed a ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Here's the hard part. She can't just quit. She has a mortgage. She has student loans. She has patients depending on her. She has a life built around this identity, but she also can't keep going like this. So she made a different choice. She decided that photography was her certain desire and medicine was her funding mechanism. She cut her hours to 3 days a week. She took the pay cut. She spent the other 4 days shooting. Within 2 years, her photography business was making as much as her part-time medical practice. Within 5 years, she quit medicine entirely. Now she shoots for magazines and galleries, and she tells people she wasted 20 years but learned a valuable lesson. The lesson is this. What is it costing you to pursue the wrong desires? What is the opportunity cost of your distraction? Let's do the math. Let's say you have 10 goals right now. One of them is your real desire. 9 of them are noise. You're spending 10% of your energy on the real desire and 90% on the noise. Over the course of a year, you give your real desire maybe 150 hours of focused attention. That's not enough to make significant progress on anything meaningful. You end the year having maintained your real desire but not advanced it. Meanwhile, you spent 1,350 hours on things that don't actually matter to you. You're exhausted. You're frustrated. You don't understand why you're not getting anywhere. The reason is simple. You're spending 90% of your energy on the wrong things. Now imagine a different scenario. You identify your one true desire. You eliminate the 9 noise goals. You redirect all that energy into the one thing that actually matters. Now you're spending 1,500 hours per year on your real desire. That's the difference between maintenance and mastery. That's the difference between dabbling and dominating. That's the difference between having a hobby and building a legacy. 1,500 hours per year for 5 years is 7,500 hours. That's past the 10,000-hour threshold that supposedly creates expertise. That's enough time to go from beginner to professional. That's enough time to build something significant. But only if you actually focus those hours. Only if you stop spending them on desires that aren't yours. So how do you actually do this? How do you go from scattered wanting to certain desire? The first step is radical honesty. You need to get brutally clear about what you actually want versus what you think you should want. This requires shutting out external voices. This requires ignoring social pressure. This requires admitting things that might not be socially acceptable. Maybe you don't actually want kids even though everyone expects you to. Maybe you don't actually want to be an entrepreneur even though it's glamorous right now. Maybe you don't actually want a big house in the suburbs even though that's supposed to be success. Maybe you don't actually want a high-powered career even though you spent years building one. The external desires are the easiest to identify because they come with should and supposed to. The real desires come with must and can't help but. Here's a diagnostic. Make a list of everything you're currently pursuing. Everything. Big goals and small goals. Career ambitions and personal projects. Fitness goals and creative dreams. Write them all down. Now go through each one and ask, would I still pursue this if nobody knew I was doing it? Would I still want this if I couldn't tell anyone? Would I still care about this if there was no social media to post about it? Would I still do this if it brought zero status or recognition? If the answer is no, that's an external desire. That's ego. That's social pressure. That's not yours. Cross it off. If the answer is yes, if you'd pursue it even in total anonymity, even if nobody ever knew, even if you got zero external validation, that's a signal. That's closer to your truth. Now take what's left on your list. Maybe it's 5 things, maybe it's 10. For each one, ask the sacrifice question. If you could only pursue one of these things for the next 10 years, which would you choose? If you had to give up all the others permanently, completely, irrevocably, which one would you keep? This is not an easy question. Your brain will resist. It will tell you that you shouldn't have to choose. It will tell you that you can do multiple things. It will tell you that choosing is limiting. Your brain is lying to you. Your brain is protecting you from the discomfort of commitment. Your brain would rather keep you scattered and safe than focused and vulnerable. But focus is where power lives. Commitment is where progress happens. Choosing is where your life begins. Let's say you've identified your one thing. You know what it is. Maybe you've known for years. Maybe you just figured it out. Either way, now you have a different problem. You have to kill everything else. This is the hard part. This is where most people fail. Because killing your other desires feels like loss. It feels like you're closing doors. It feels like you're limiting your potential. This is the paradox you have to embrace. Subtraction feels like loss but delivers like abundance. Every desire you eliminate is energy you can redirect. Every goal you cross off is attention you can reclaim. Every want you release is power you can consolidate. Warren Buffett's framework suggested you identify 5 priorities and avoid the other 20. I'm suggesting you identify one priority and systematically dismantle everything else. This is not about being closed-minded. This is not about being rigid. This is about being honest that you have limited time and energy, and those resources are currently being wasted on desires that don't serve you. You're going to create a kill list. On this list, you're going to write down every goal, every project, every ambition that is not your one thing. Then you're going to actively, intentionally, ceremonially end your relationship with each of those desires. This might sound dramatic, but the ceremony matters. Your brain needs closure. If you just vaguely decide to focus more on X and less on Y, you'll drift back to old patterns within weeks. But if you write a goodbye letter to each eliminated desire, if you physically delete the files related to that project, if you give away the equipment, if you announce to your accountability partner that you're no longer pursuing that goal, your brain registers the finality. It accepts that this chapter is over. It stops using background processing power on that desire. It stops generating ideas for that project. It redirects that energy to your one thing. The kill list is not optional. It's essential. It's where the transformation happens. Let me tell you what to expect when you create your kill list. First relief. There's an immediate lightness that comes from releasing desires you were carrying out of obligation. Second fear. You'll panic that you're closing doors. You'll worry that you're making a mistake. You'll want to hedge and keep a few backup plans. Don't. That's your scarcity mindset talking. Third, grief. You'll mourn the selves you could have been. The photographer you'll never become. The entrepreneur you won't be. The athlete you won't train as. This grief is real and valid. Let yourself feel it, but don't let it stop you. Fourth, doubt. About 3 weeks in, you'll question whether your one thing is really the right thing. This is your brain testing your commitment. This is normal. Push through. Fifth, clarity. Around 6 weeks in, you'll notice that your thoughts are cleaner. Your decisions are easier. Your energy is higher. You're not constantly torn between competing desires. You're finally pointed in one direction. Now let's talk about how to actually focus that redirected energy. Because identifying your one thing and killing your distractions is only half the equation. The other half is learning to consolidate your energy into that singular focus. This is where the magic happens. This is where the exponential returns kick in. When you focus all your energy on one thing, you don't get linear improvement. You get compound growth. You get network effects. You get the multiplication that comes from depth instead of breadth. Think of it like light. Scattered light illuminates a room but doesn't create much heat. Focused light, a laser, can cut through steel. Same photons, same energy, different configuration. Your attention works the same way. Scattered attention maintains multiple projects but creates no breakthroughs. Focused attention, obsessive attention, cuts through obstacles that would stop anyone else. It finds solutions that aren't obvious. It persists past the point where normal interest would fade. This is not about working harder. This is about directing your effort with precision instead of spraying it with hope. The 10,000-hour rule, which has been debated and discussed endlessly, only works if those hours are focused on one specific domain. If you spend 10,000 hours dabbling across 10 different skills, you'll be mediocre at 10 things. If you spend 10,000 hours obsessing over one skill, you'll be world-class at one thing. The math is simple, but the execution is hard, because it requires you to accept that you're not going to be good at the other 9 things. You're not going to be a polymath. You're not going to be a Renaissance person. You're going to be a specialist. You're going to be someone who went deep instead of wide. And in a world full of people going wide, the people who go deep win. There's another effect that happens with singular focus: compound interest. In finance, compound interest means that your returns generate their own returns, which generate their own returns, creating exponential growth over time. The same principle applies to skill development, relationship building, and reputation creation. When you focus on one thing, each hour you invest builds on the previous hours. You're not starting from zero every time you switch contexts. You're building on an ever-growing foundation. Your second year of focused effort is more productive than your first year because you have a year of foundation. Your fifth year is more productive than your second year because you have 5 years of foundation. By year 10, you're operating at a level that's impossible for someone who's been scattered across multiple pursuits. Let me give you a concrete example. There's a novelist I know who decided 15 years ago that he was going to write 1 book per year, every year, for the rest of his life. Not short stories, not blog posts, not screenplays. Books. 1 per year. Singular focus. He didn't pursue speaking gigs until he had 10 books. He didn't start a podcast. He didn't build a YouTube channel. He didn't diversify into consulting. He just wrote books. 1 per year. For 15 years. Now he has 15 books. They build on each other. Readers who discover book 10 go back and buy the first 9. Each book is better than the last because he's been practicing the same craft for 15 years. His income from book 15 is higher than the income from books 1 through 10 combined because he has a backlist that compounds. This is what focused energy creates. This is what scattered energy cannot create. Compare that to another writer I know who's been working for 15 years and has written 2 books, started 3 podcasts, launched 4 courses, tried to build a coaching business, dabbled in screenwriting, and maintains an active presence on 5 social media platforms. She's busy. She's visible. She's scattered. She makes a fraction of what the first novelist makes because her energy is fragmented across a dozen different projects. None of them are bad. All of them are good. But good is not enough. Good distributed across 12 things is mediocre. Good consolidated into one thing is exceptional. This is the energy consolidation effect. Your results aren't linearly proportional to your effort. They're exponentially proportional to your focus. 2 times the focus doesn't get you 2 times the results. It gets you 10 times the results. 10 times the focus doesn't get you 10 times the results. It gets you 100 times the results. This is why the rich get richer, and the successful get more successful, and the famous get more famous. It's not a conspiracy. It's compound focus. They found their one thing. They went all in. They stayed all in. The results compounded. And now they operate at a level that seems impossible to people who are still scattered. So how do you actually live this? How do you structure your life around singular desire? Let's get practical. You're going to design what I call a monastery month. 30 days of monastic focus on your one thing. This is not a vacation. This is not a retreat. This is an immersion. This is you treating your one desire like it's the only thing that exists. For 30 days, you're going to eliminate everything that doesn't serve your singular focus. This means different things for different people, but here are the non-negotiables. First, digital elimination. Delete social media apps from your phone, all of them. Yes, even that one. You can access them from a laptop if you absolutely must, but not from your phone. Turn off all notifications except calls and texts from your top 5 people. No email notifications, no app notifications, no news alerts. Your phone is no longer an attention vacuum. It's a tool you control. If this makes you anxious, that's good. That anxiety is information about how addicted you've become to digital distraction. Feel it. Push through it. By week 2, the anxiety will be gone and you'll have reclaimed hours of attention per day. Second, schedule elimination. Look at your calendar for the next 30 days. Cancel everything that doesn't serve your one thing. That networking event? Cancel it. That coffee meeting with an old colleague? Cancel it. That committee you're on? Take a leave. That volunteer obligation? Pause it. That weekly dinner with friends? Skip it for a month. This will feel selfish. This will feel rude. This will feel irresponsible. Do it anyway. You're not abandoning your relationships permanently. You're taking 30 days to focus on the thing that matters most. Real friends will understand. Acquaintances might not. That's fine. You're not optimizing for acquaintance approval. Third, environmental design. Your physical space should support your one thing. If your one thing is writing, your desk should have nothing on it except your computer and maybe a notebook. No clutter. No visual distraction. If your one thing is building a business, your office should be set up for deep work, not meetings. If your one thing is art, your studio should be ready to use at any moment with no setup friction. You want to minimize the activation energy required to work on your one thing. You want to maximize the friction for everything else. Make your one thing easy. Make everything else hard. Fourth, ritual design. You're going to create a daily ritual that anchors your attention to your one thing. This could be a morning practice, where you spend the first 2 hours of your day before you check any messages or do anything else, working on your one thing. This could be an evening practice where you review your progress and plan tomorrow's action. This could be a midday practice where you take a walk and think about your one thing without any distractions. The specific ritual matters less than the consistency. You want to train your brain that certain times are sacred for your singular focus. You want to create a Pavlovian response where the ritual triggers the focus state. Fifth, relationship curation. During your monastery month, you're going to be selective about who you spend time with. You're going to seek out people who amplify your focus, not people who drain it. You're going to avoid energy vampires, even if they're nice people. You're going to spend time with people who are obsessed with their own thing, not people who are chronically distracted. Obsession is contagious. So is distraction. Choose your social environment carefully. This might mean you see less of certain friends for a month. That's okay. This is an experiment. This is 30 days. You can always go back to your normal social patterns afterward, but I suspect you won't want to. Sixth, input diet. For 30 days, you're going to be very careful about what information you consume. No news, no political content, no rage-inducing social media threads, no gossip, no celebrity drama. You're going to consume content that feeds your one thing. Books related to your focus. Podcasts with people who mastered your domain. Courses that teach you the skills you need. Conversations with mentors who are ahead of you on the path. Everything else is junk food for your brain. Cut it out. Notice how much clearer your thinking becomes when you stop poisoning it with irrelevant inputs. Now let me walk you through what a typical day in your monastery month might look like. You wake up. You don't check your phone. You don't check email. You don't check the news. You sit down with a glass of water and you start working on your one thing. No warm-up, no scrolling, no easing into it. You dive in. You work for 2 hours. Deep work. No interruptions. Phone in another room. Door closed. Focus. After 2 hours, you take a break. You move your body. You eat something. You hydrate. Then you do whatever you have to do for your day job or your family obligations. But you've already given your best energy to your one thing. The rest of the day can be mediocre. You already won the day in those first 2 hours. In the evening, you have another block of time for your one thing. Maybe it's 2 hours. Maybe it's 4. It depends on your life circumstances, but it's blocked out. It's protected. Nothing else gets scheduled there. You work, you create, you practice, you build. Then, before bed, You spend 15 minutes reviewing your progress. You write down what you accomplished. You write down what you learned. You write down what you'll do tomorrow. You're building momentum. You're building identity. You're building a life organized around your singular desire. Let's pause here and do another grounding exercise. Close your eyes if you're in a safe place to do so. If you're driving, just let your gaze soften. Take a deep breath. Now picture yourself 6 months from now. You've just completed your monastery month and you've maintained the focus for 5 more months. What does your life look like? What has changed? What have you built? What have you become? Don't think about this. Feel into it. Let the image come. Let it be specific. What are you doing with your days? How do you feel when you wake up? Who are you becoming? Hold that image for a moment. That person, that future version of you, is not a fantasy. It's a possibility. It's the person you become when you finally stop scattering your energy and start consolidating it. That person is waiting for you on the other side of your commitment. Breathe. Open your eyes. Come back. Here's what you need to understand about the monastery month. It's not meant to be sustainable forever. It's meant to be a reset. It's meant to break your old patterns and establish new ones. It's meant to show you what's possible when you actually focus. Most people have never experienced what full focus feels like. They've been scattered their entire lives. They don't know what they're capable of when they stop fragmenting their attention. The monastery month shows you. It gives you a taste of your potential. And once you've tasted it, you can't go back to the old way. You won't want to. But here's the warning. Around day 21, you're going to hit resistance. This is when your brain will panic. It will tell you that you're missing out. It will tell you that you're falling behind. It will generate anxiety about all the things you're not doing. It will whisper that maybe your one thing isn't the right thing. It will suggest that maybe you should hedge a little bit. This is the moment where most people break. They add back a social media app. They say yes to a meeting. They start a new side project. They lose the thread. Don't. This is the test. This is where your commitment gets proven. Push through day 21 and you'll break through to a new level of focus. Give in on day 21 and you'll have to start over. Let me give you a day-by-day breakdown of what to expect and how to handle the predictable challenges. Day 1 feels exciting. You're full of energy. You're ready to change everything. This is the honeymoon phase. Enjoy it, but don't trust it. Motivation fades. Systems persist. Day 2 and 3, you're still riding the initial wave. You're productive. You're feeling good about your choice. You're telling people about your monastery month. Day 4 is when the first twinge of doubt appears. You see something on social media that you would normally engage with. You feel the pull, notice it. Don't act on it. Day 5 through 7, you start to feel the withdrawal from distraction. Your brain is used to constant novelty. It's craving stimulus. This is uncomfortable. Sit with the discomfort. This is where growth happens. Day 8 through 14 is the danger zone for most people. The initial excitement has worn off. The discomfort is still present. You haven't seen dramatic results yet. This is when people quit. They tell themselves the experiment isn't working. They convince themselves they need more balance. They add back one small distraction, then another, then another. Within a week, they're back to their old patterns. Don't be this person. Expect this phase. Name it when it happens. Say out loud, this is day 12 and I knew this would be hard. I'm doing it anyway. That simple acknowledgement creates distance between you and the urge to quit. Day 15 through 21 is the identity shift phase. You start to notice that your thoughts are different. You're not constantly planning the next distraction. You're not fragmented. You're becoming someone who focuses. This feels strange at first. Your old identity is dissolving. Your new identity hasn't fully formed yet. You're in the liminal space. This is where transformation happens. Don't rush it. Don't try to force it. Just keep showing up for your one thing. The identity shift happens through repetition, not revelation. Day 22 through 30 is the breakthrough phase. Suddenly things start clicking. The work that felt hard at day 10 feels easier at day 25. You're seeing results. You're building momentum. You're experiencing flow states regularly. This is what focus creates. This is what scattered attention prevents. By day 30, you don't want to stop. You've built a life around your one thing, and it feels right in a way your old life never did. You've proven to yourself that singular desire works. Now the question is whether you'll maintain it. Now let's talk about what happens after the monastery month and how to maintain your focus long term. This is where most people fail. They complete the intensive and then drift back to old patterns. The distraction creeps back in. The social obligations resume. The scattered focus returns. Within 3 months, they're back where they started. I'm going to give you a relapse-proofing plan that prevents this from happening. Think of it as your immune system against scattered desire. First, you need tripwires. These are early warning signals that you're starting to lose focus. Your tripwire might be that you've said yes to 3 social obligations in 1 week when your rule is maximum 2 per month. Your tripwire might be that you've spent 3 consecutive days without working on your one thing. Your tripwire might be that you've reinstalled a social media app on your phone. When you hit a tripwire, you don't panic. You don't shame yourself. You activate your response protocol. Your response protocol is a pre-written set of actions you take immediately when you notice you're drifting. Maybe it's a phone call to your accountability partner. Maybe it's a 24-hour digital detox. Maybe it's rereading your why statement for your one thing. The key is that you decide this in advance, not in the moment when you're already compromised. Second, you need weekly reviews. Every Sunday evening, you're going to spend 30 minutes reviewing your week. How many hours did you spend on your one thing? How many hours did you spend on distractions? What temptations arose? Which ones did you resist? Which ones did you give in to? What will you do differently next week? Write this down. Track it. What gets measured gets managed. The weekly review is your course correction mechanism. It catches drift before it becomes disaster. Third, you need monthly audits. Once per month, you're going to do a deeper review. Pull out your kill list from the beginning of your monastery month. Are any of those dead desires trying to resurrect? Are you spending time or energy on things that aren't your one thing? If yes, why? What need are they meeting? Can you meet that need in a way that supports your focus instead of fragmenting it? The monthly audit is where you recommit. It's where you remember why you chose this path. It's where you decide again to stay on it. Fourth, you need accountability structures. This cannot be a solo journey. You need at least one person who knows what you're doing and checks in regularly. Not to judge you, not to shame you when you mess up, but to reflect back to you what they're seeing. To ask the hard questions. To remind you of your commitment when you're doubting yourself. Your accountability partner should be someone who's also pursuing their own singular focus. Someone who understands the challenge. Someone who won't let you make excuses. Find this person. Schedule weekly check-ins. Make it non-negotiable. Fifth, you need an escalation protocol for when you're seriously struggling. There will be times when the tripwires aren't enough, when you're on the edge of abandoning your focus entirely. You need to know in advance what you'll do when this happens. Maybe it's a mini monastery week where you go back to the intensive focus rules for 7 days. Maybe it's hiring a coach for a month. Maybe it's attending a workshop or retreat related to your one thing. Maybe it's changing your environment entirely for a period of time. The point is, you don't figure this out in crisis. You plan for it now. Let me walk you through what a real relapse looks like so you can recognize it and stop it early. It starts small. You're tired one morning, so you skip your ritual. You tell yourself it's just one day. Then you have a bad day at work, so you scroll social media for an hour to decompress. You tell yourself you deserved a break. Then a friend invites you to an event and you say yes, even though it's during your protected time for your one thing. You tell yourself relationships matter. Then you get an idea for a new project and you spend a few hours researching it. You tell yourself you're just exploring. Within 2 weeks, you've added back 3 distractions, broken your morning ritual 4 times, and worked on your one thing maybe 6 hours total. You're telling yourself you're still focused, but you're not. You've relapsed. You're scattered again. Here's how you stop this pattern. The moment you skip your ritual, you notice. You don't judge, you just notice. Then you ask yourself, is this a genuine need for rest or is this avoidance? If it's avoidance, you do a 10-minute version of your ritual instead of skipping entirely. 10 minutes keeps the pattern alive. 0 minutes starts the decay. The moment you scroll social media, you notice. You set a timer. You give yourself 10 minutes. When the timer goes off, you stop. You don't negotiate. You don't extend. You honor the boundary. The moment you say yes to something that conflicts with your one thing, you pause. You ask yourself, is this truly important, or am I just afraid of disappointing someone? If it's the second one, you call them back and change your answer. It will feel uncomfortable. Do it anyway. The moment you get excited about a new project, you write it in your someday maybe list. You don't research it. You don't plan it. You acknowledge it, and you return to your one thing. These micro corrections prevent macro relapses. But what if you do relapse completely? What if you lose 3 months to scattered focus? What if you wake up one day and realize you've abandoned your one thing? This will probably happen at some point. It's not a reason to give up. It's information. First, you forgive yourself. Self-flagellation doesn't create focus. It creates shame. Shame creates paralysis. You acknowledge what happened. You get curious about why it happened. Maybe your one thing wasn't actually your one thing. Maybe you chose something that sounded good but wasn't true. Maybe your life circumstances changed, and you need to adapt your approach. Maybe you just got scared and ran back to the safety of distraction. All of these are useful information. Second, you decide if you want to recommit. This is not automatic. Maybe you learned through this experience that your original choice wasn't right. Maybe you need to identify a different one thing. That's okay. The process still works. You just need to apply it to the right target. But if your one thing still feels true, if you still have that certainty underneath the noise, then you recommit. You don't start over. You don't punish yourself with a harder monastery month. You just begin. Now let's talk about relationships, because this is where singular focus gets complicated and where most people struggle long term. What do you do about the people in your life who don't understand your focus? What do you do about the partner who feels neglected? What do you do about the friends who think you're being selfish? What do you do about the family members who tell you you're being obsessive? This is real. This is hard. This is where a lot of people abandon their singular desire because the social pressure becomes too intense. Here's the truth. Your singular desire will cost you some relationships. Not all of them. Not the deep ones, but some of them. The friends who bonded with you over shared distraction will drift away when you stop being available for that distraction. The people who are invested in you staying small will become uncomfortable when you start growing. The relationships that were built on proximity rather than depth will fade when you're no longer proximally available. This is sad. This is also necessary. You're changing. Not everyone will change with you. Not everyone needs to. Some relationships are meant to be temporary. Some people are meant to be in your life for a season, not forever. The question is whether you're willing to let go of relationships that don't serve your growth in order to step into relationships that do. But what about the important relationships? What about your spouse? What about your kids? What about your best friend? These relationships don't have to end. These relationships can actually deepen, but they require intentional care during your transition. Here's what I suggest. Have an explicit conversation with the people who matter most. Tell them what you're doing and why. Tell them that you're not abandoning them. Tell them that you're trying to become the person you're meant to be, and that requires focus. Tell them that you need their support. Be specific about what that support looks like. Maybe it means they handle more household responsibilities for 30 days. Maybe it means they don't guilt you about missed dinners. Maybe it means they actively encourage you when you're doubting yourself. Most people will support you if you're honest and clear about what you need. Here's an example of how this conversation might go. You sit down with your partner. You're nervous. You've been thinking about this for weeks. You start by saying, I need to talk to you about something important. I've realized that I've been scattering my energy across too many things and none of them are moving forward. I've identified the one thing that actually matters to me. The thing I need to focus on. It's this. I want to give it my full attention for the next 6 months. I want to wake up early and work on it before anything else. I want to protect evenings twice a week for it. I want to say no to most social obligations so I can build momentum. I know this is going to affect you. I know you're going to have to pick up some slack. I know I'm asking a lot, but this matters to me in a way that nothing else has. I need to do this. Will you support me? Your partner might respond in several ways. They might say yes immediately because they've watched you struggle with scattered focus, and they want you to be fulfilled. They might be hesitant because they're worried about how it will affect them. They might be resistant because they're afraid you're choosing your project over them. All of these are valid. Your job is not to convince them. Your job is to listen, to understand their concerns, to address what you can address, to be honest about what you can't, to make them feel heard and valued even as you commit to your path. If they're worried you're choosing your project over them, you clarify. You say, I'm not choosing this over you. I'm choosing to become the version of me that can show up better in this relationship. Right now, I'm scattered and frustrated, and that makes me a worse partner. If I can focus on this one thing and make real progress, I'll be more present when we are together. I'll have more energy. I'll be more fulfilled. This is good for both of us. Then you prove it. You make sure that when you are with them, you're fully with them. No phone, no distraction, no mental wandering. You give them quality time even if you give them less quantity. For your kids, if you have them, the conversation is different, but the principle is the same. You don't ask permission from your children, but you do explain. You tell them age appropriately what you're working on and why it matters. You tell them that you might be busier during certain times, but that you'll always make time for them. You involve them in your one thing when possible. You show them what it looks like to pursue something with focus and commitment. You model the behavior you hope they'll learn. And you protect specific times with them as sacred. Maybe it's bedtime. Maybe it's Saturday morning breakfast. Maybe it's the walk home from school. Whatever it is, it's non-negotiable. It's not time you take from your one thing. It's time you take from everything else. For your friends, the conversation is simpler. You say, I'm entering a focused season. I'm working on something that matters a lot to me, and I need to protect my time and energy for it. I won't be as available as I usually am. This isn't about you. This isn't about our friendship. This is about me finally committing to something I've been avoiding. I hope you understand. Real friends will. They'll say, do your thing. We'll be here when you come up for air. They'll check in occasionally to see how it's going. They'll celebrate your progress. They won't guilt you for not being available. The friends who do guilt you, who make your focus about them, who try to pull you back into old patterns, those are the relationships that were built on distraction, not depth. Let them fade. It's okay. Now let's talk about money, because this is the other major obstacle that keeps people from pursuing singular focus. How do you pursue your singular desire if it doesn't pay the bills? How do you focus when you need to work a day job? How do you commit when you have financial obligations? This is real. This is not something you can positive think your way through. You need a plan. You need what I call the two-track life. Track one is your income track. This is your day job. This is how you pay your bills. This is not your passion. This is your funding mechanism. Track two is your desire track. This is your one thing. This is what you're building. This is where your focus goes when you're not earning money. The key is to structure your income track to support your desire track, not compete with it. This means you want an income source that is stable, sufficient, and contained. Stable means it's not constantly in crisis. Sufficient means it covers your needs without excess. Contained means it doesn't expand to fill all your time and energy. The worst income track is the one that pays well but demands everything from you. The best income track is the one that pays enough and leaves you with the energy and time to pursue your desire track. This might mean you take a pay cut. This might mean you go part-time. This might mean you choose a job that's boring but bounded instead of a job that's exciting but consuming. This is a trade-off, but it's a conscious trade-off in service of your singular desire. Let me give you a specific example. There was a guy who wanted to build a software company. He was working as a software engineer at a startup. The job paid well. The job was interesting. The job also demanded 60 hours per week, and he was constantly on call. He had no energy left to work on his own thing. So he made a radical choice. He quit the startup job and took a boring job at an insurance company. His new job paid 20% less. His new job was not exciting, but his new job was strictly 9 to 5. He never thought about it outside of work. He never took it home. He never had to be on call. He used his mornings before work and his evenings after work to build his company. Within 3 years, his company was making enough that he could quit the insurance job. Within 5 years, his company had 20 employees and was doing 7 figures in revenue. The boring job was the bridge. The boring job was the funding mechanism. The boring job gave him the space to focus on his one thing. What's your funding mechanism? If you don't have one, you need to create one. If your current job is consuming all your energy, you need to change it. This might feel like moving backward. It might feel like giving up on your career. It's not. It's being strategic. It's recognizing that your day job is not your identity. Your day job is a tool. And if the tool isn't working, you get a different tool. There's no shame in having a boring job if that boring job is funding your real work. There's a lot of shame in having an impressive job that prevents you from doing your real work. Now, some of you are thinking that you can't take a pay cut. You have too many expenses. You need every dollar you're making. Okay, let's look at your expenses. Pull up your bank statements for the last 3 months. Look at where your money is actually going. How much is going to things that support your singular desire? How much is going to things that distract from it? How much is going to status signaling? How much is going to comfort purchases? How much is going to subscriptions you don't use? How much is going to stuff you don't need? Most people find that 30 to 50% of their spending has nothing to do with their needs or their desires. It's autopilot spending. It's distraction spending. It's keeping up with others' spending. Cut that spending. Be ruthless. Cancel the subscriptions. Sell the stuff. Move to a cheaper place if your housing cost is eating your life. Drive an older car. Cook at home. Buy less stuff. This isn't about becoming a minimalist ascetic. This is about freedom. Every dollar you don't spend on distractions is a dollar you don't have to earn. Every dollar you don't have to earn is time you can spend on your one thing. The math is simple. If you cut your expenses by 20%, you can cut your work hours by 20%. Or you can save that money and buy yourself a year of runway to go all in on your desire. Either way, you've just bought yourself freedom. You've just bought yourself time. Time is the only non-renewable resource. Don't waste it earning money to buy things that don't matter. Here's a specific financial plan you can implement in the next 30 days. Week 1, track every dollar you spend. Don't change your behavior yet. Just track. Use an app or a spreadsheet. Everything goes in. Coffee, gas, subscriptions, groceries, everything. Week 2, categorize your spending into 3 buckets. Essential. That's housing, food, utilities, transportation, insurance. Supportive. That's anything that directly supports your one thing. Books, courses, equipment, workspace, whatever you need. Wasteful, everything else. All the stuff that doesn't support your survival or your one thing. Week 3, eliminate 50% of the wasteful category. Just cut it. Cancel subscriptions. Stop buying coffee out. Unsubscribe from services. Sell stuff you bought but don't use. Week 4, take the money you just freed up and either reduce your work hours or put it in a focus fund that you'll use to eventually go full-time on your one thing. This exercise is painful for most people because it reveals how much of their life energy they're spending on things that don't matter, how much time they're trading for money they then spend on distraction. But it's also liberating because it shows you that you have more control than you thought. You can choose differently. You can spend less. You can work less. You can focus more. It's all choices. Right now, you're making unconscious choices that scatter you. After this exercise, you'll be making conscious choices that consolidate you. Now let's talk about the plateau in much more depth because this is where most people quit and this is where you need the most support. You've been working on your one thing for 6 months. The initial excitement is long gone. You're putting in the hours. You're showing up. But the results aren't matching your effort. You're not seeing the progress you expected. You're starting to doubt whether this is the right path. You're thinking maybe you should try something else. Maybe this just isn't meant to be. This is the plateau. This is the valley of disappointment. This is where your commitment gets tested. Here's what you need to understand about the plateau. It's not a problem. It's the process. The plateau is where skill development happens. It's where your brain is rewiring. It's where your body is adapting. It's where the invisible foundation is being built that will support the visible success later. But it doesn't feel like that. It feels like nothing is happening. It feels like you're wasting your time. It feels like everyone else is progressing and you're stuck. This feeling is lying to you. Progress is happening. You just can't see it yet. There's a concept in biology called the latency period. It's the time between when you plant a seed and when you see the sprout. For some plants, that's days. For others, it's years. Bamboo is the famous example. You plant bamboo, you water it, you care for it. You see nothing for 5 years. No sprout, no growth, nothing visible. Underground, the bamboo is developing an extensive root system that will eventually support 90 feet of growth. But you can't see that. All you see is dirt. If you gave up in year 4 because nothing was happening, you'd miss the explosion of growth in year 6. Your singular focus works the same way. The first year or 2 or 3 might feel like nothing is happening. You're building roots. You're developing the foundation. The growth is coming. But you have to trust the process long enough to see it. So how do you survive the plateau? How do you keep going when your brain is telling you to quit? First, you change what you measure. When visible results are scarce, measure inputs instead of outputs. Did you show up today? Yes or no? Did you do your 2 hours of deep work? Yes or no? Did you resist the temptation to start a new project? Yes or no? These are binary measures. You either did them or you didn't. String together enough days of yes, and the outputs take care of themselves. But if you're only measuring outputs and the outputs aren't coming yet, you'll quit before you break through. Second, you find small wins within the plateau. They're there if you look. Maybe you learned a new technique. Maybe you had a conversation that gave you a new perspective. Maybe you solved a problem that was blocking you last week. Maybe you just felt a little more confident in your process. These matter. These accumulate. Keep a wins journal. Every day, write down 3 small wins from your work on your one thing. They don't have to be dramatic. They just have to be true. Over time, this journal becomes evidence that you're progressing even when it doesn't feel like it. Third, you connect with others who are on a similar path, especially people who are 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. They remember the plateau. They know what you're going through. They can tell you that it's normal, that it doesn't mean you're failing, that it ends. Find these people. Join a community. Attend a workshop. Hire a coach. Get around people who understand the long game, because your regular life is full of people who are playing the short game and they won't understand why you're still committed to something that isn't producing obvious results yet. Fourth, you revisit your why regularly. Why is this your one thing? Why does it have to be you? Why can't you quit? Write this down, not once, repeatedly. Every time you feel like giving up, write it again. Your why will evolve. It will deepen. The first time you write it, it might be surface level. By the 10th time, you're getting to the real truth. By the 20th time, it's so clear and so certain that the plateau doesn't shake you anymore. You know why you're doing this. You know it's worth it. You know you're going to keep going no matter what. Fifth, you practice detachment from outcomes while maintaining attachment to process. This is a difficult balance. You care deeply about your one thing. You want it to succeed, but you can't control when the breakthrough happens. You can only control whether you show up. So you attach to showing up. You attach to the process. You commit to doing the work regardless of whether you see immediate results. You tell yourself, my job is to show up and do the work. The results will come when they come. This doesn't mean you don't care about results. It means you don't let the absence of results stop you from doing the work that will eventually create them. Let me give you a detailed example of someone navigating the plateau successfully. There's a woman I know who wanted to become a professional speaker. She identified this as her one thing. She committed fully. She spent 6 months developing her keynote talk. She practiced it hundreds of times. She recorded herself. She hired a coach. She joined Toastmasters. She reached out to event organizers. She offered to speak for free to build her portfolio. For the first year, nothing happened. She got rejections. She got silence. She spoke to small groups of 10 people. She made no money. She questioned whether this was the right path. But she had implemented everything I'm teaching you. She had her tripwires. She had her weekly reviews. She had her accountability partner. She had her why statement. She kept showing up. In month 14, something shifted. An event organizer who had rejected her 6 months earlier reached back out. One of their speakers had canceled. Could she fill in? She said yes. She delivered her keynote. It went well. Someone in the audience was a conference organizer. They hired her for their event. That keynote led to 3 more bookings. Those 3 led to 10 more. Within 6 months of that first breakthrough, she was booking paid speaking gigs regularly. Within a year of the breakthrough, she was making 6 figures as a speaker. From the outside, it looked like overnight success. She'd only been doing this for 2.5 years. But she knew the truth. It was 14 months of invisible root development followed by explosive visible growth. If she'd quit in month 12, none of that would have happened. She survived the plateau. That's what made the difference. Now I want to talk about a specific challenge that comes up during the plateau. The temptation to add something new. Your brain gets bored. The plateau is uncomfortable, so your brain looks for relief. It generates ideas for new projects. It suggests that maybe you should diversify a little. It whispers that this new opportunity is too good to pass up. This is your brain trying to return you to scattered attention because scattered attention feels safer than focused commitment. Don't fall for it. Every new project you add steals energy from your one thing. Every diversification delays your breakthrough. Every backup plan undermines your commitment. Here's a practice I want you to implement. I call it the someday maybe list. When you get excited about a new idea or opportunity, you don't ignore it. You don't suppress it. You write it down on your someday maybe list. You acknowledge it. You honor it. Then you return to your one thing. You tell yourself, if this idea still matters in a year, I'll revisit it. Maybe it will. Probably it won't. Most shiny objects lose their shine within weeks. But the act of writing it down satisfies your brain's need to capture the idea. It stops the obsessive thinking. It allows you to let it go without guilt. Try this for 30 days. Every time you're tempted to start something new, write it on your someday maybe list instead. At the end of 30 days, look at the list. How many of those ideas still feel urgent? My guess is less than 10%. That's 90% that would have stolen your energy if you'd pursued them. Let's talk about another plateau challenge. Comparison. You're working hard on your one thing. Progress feels slow. Then you see someone on social media who's crushing it in your domain. They're getting recognition. They're making money. They're growing fast. You feel inadequate. You feel like you're behind. You start questioning whether you're good enough. This is comparison, and it's poison. Here's the truth. You don't know their journey. You don't know how long they've been at it. You don't know what advantages they had. You don't know what they're sacrificing. You don't know if they're even happy. You only know what they choose to show, and what they show is optimized to make you feel exactly how you're feeling. Inadequate. Behind. Not enough. This serves them by making you engage more. This doesn't serve you at all. The antidote to comparison is not to avoid seeing other people's success. The antidote is to reframe it. When you see someone succeeding in your domain, instead of feeling threatened, feel encouraged. Their success proves that success is possible. Their growth proves that the plateau ends. Their results prove that focused effort works. They're not your competition. They're your proof of concept. They walked the path you're walking. They survived the plateau you're in. They came out the other side. You can too. Shift from, they're ahead of me and I'm failing, to, they're ahead of me and that shows me what's possible. This reframe changes everything. Now let's talk about the breakthrough. What happens when you finally break through the plateau? What does that actually look like? The breakthrough often happens suddenly. You've been working for months or years with little visible progress. Then something clicks. Suddenly opportunities appear. Suddenly people notice. Suddenly the work gets easier. Suddenly results start compounding. This is not luck. This is not magic. This is the natural result of focused effort reaching critical mass. You've built enough skill that you can see the work differently. You've built enough reputation that opportunities come to you instead of you chasing them. You've built enough foundation that each new effort builds on all the previous efforts. This is the compound effect finally becoming visible. Here's what you need to know about the breakthrough. First, it comes later than you want, but faster than you expect once it starts. You'll think it should have happened 6 months ago. But when it does happen, the speed will shock you. Things that seemed impossible last month are happening this month. Second, it doesn't feel like you thought it would feel. You expected to feel triumphant, victorious, like you've arrived. Instead, you feel calm. You feel like you've just stepped into the flow of your natural path. You feel like this is how it was always supposed to be. Third, it creates new challenges. More opportunities means more decisions about what to say yes to. More visibility means more people wanting your time. More success means more responsibility. These are good problems, but they're still problems. You'll need to protect your focus just as vigilantly after the breakthrough as you did before. Let me give you another detailed example of someone's breakthrough. There's a guy I know who spent 3 years building a YouTube channel about a very specific topic. He posted twice per week, every week. For 3 years, his growth was slow. He'd get a few hundred views per video, occasionally 1,000. He made no money. His family thought he was wasting his time. He questioned it himself. But he kept going. He'd committed to this as his one thing. In month 37, one of his videos got picked up by the algorithm. It went viral. Not massive viral, but viral for his niche. 50,000 views. That video brought subscribers. Those subscribers watched his back catalog. The next video got more views. Then the next. Within 3 months, his channel went from 3,000 subscribers to 50,000. Within 6 months, he was making more from YouTube than his day job. Within a year, he quit the day job and went full-time. The breakthrough came in month 37. But it only came because he'd built 36 months of foundation first. This is the pattern. This is always the pattern. The breakthrough is not the beginning. The breakthrough is the harvest. You plant, you water, you tend, you wait, you trust, then you harvest. But you can't harvest if you gave up during the waiting. You can't harvest if you scattered your energy across 10 different gardens. You can only harvest if you committed to one garden and stayed committed through the seasons when nothing seemed to be growing. Your singular focus is that garden. Your plateau is the winter. Your breakthrough is the spring, but winter comes before spring. Always. That's not a bug. That's the design. Now let's talk about what happens after you've achieved some level of success with your one thing. This is where the next challenge appears. Opportunities multiply. People want your attention. You're invited to speak, to consult, to collaborate, to expand. Everything you said no to before starts saying yes to you. This is where a lot of people lose their focus again. They went from scattered across 10 random things to focused on one thing, to scattered across 10 opportunities related to that one thing. The content changed, but the pattern didn't. They're fragmented again. Don't let this happen. This is where you need a second-level filter. Not everything that's related to your one thing actually serves your one thing. Some opportunities are aligned. Some are adjacent. Some are distractions disguised as opportunities. Here's how to filter. For every opportunity that comes your way, ask 3 questions. First, does this deepen my expertise in my one thing, or does it broaden me into something else? Deeper is good. Broader is dangerous. If someone wants you to consult on something adjacent to your domain, that's broadening. If someone wants you to teach what you already know, that's deepening. Choose deepening. Second, does this give me more time and energy for my core work, or does it take time and energy away? Some opportunities are force multipliers. They create leverage. They free you up. They generate resources you can reinvest. Other opportunities are energy drains. They sound impressive, but they consume more than they create. Choose the force multipliers. Third, does this align with where I want to be in 5 years, or is this a detour? Be ruthlessly honest. Some opportunities are tempting because they're lucrative or prestigious, but they take you off your path. Choose the opportunities that keep you on your path, even if they're less sexy. Let me give you an example of someone who navigated this well. There's an author I know who wrote a best-selling book about productivity. After the book succeeded, she got flooded with opportunities. Speaking gigs, consulting contracts, podcast interview requests, invitations to write for major publications, an opportunity to start a coaching program, an offer to create an online course, an invitation to join a startup as an advisor. Every one of these opportunities was related to her domain. Every one of them was tempting. She said no to most of them. She said yes to writing her second book and to a handful of speaking gigs per year that were at exactly the venues she wanted to build relationships with. That's it. Everything else was a no. People thought she was crazy. Why would you turn down that consulting contract? Why would you say no to that advisory role? Because those things didn't serve her one thing. Her one thing was writing books. Everything else was adjacent. By saying no to the adjacent, she protected her focus. She wrote her second book, then her third, then her fourth. Now she has a body of work that's taken her 10 years to build. If she'd said yes to all those opportunities, she might have more money. But she wouldn't have the books. She wouldn't have the legacy. She chose focus over opportunity. That's the art of certain desire at an advanced level. Now I want to give you a 30-day micro-challenge sequence that will train your focus muscle and prevent relapse. These are small daily practices that build on each other. Each one is simple. The accumulation is powerful. You can start this sequence at any point in your journey, during your monastery month, after your breakthrough, when you're in the plateau, whenever you need to recommit to your focus. Think of this as your focus training program. 30 days, 30 practices, 1 per day, day 1 micro challenge. Write your one thing on an index card. Carry it in your wallet or pocket. Every time you touch your wallet today, read the card. This simple repetition starts building the neural pathway. Your one thing becomes more real every time you read it. Day 2 micro challenge. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Sit in silence. No music. No meditation app. Just silence. Notice how uncomfortable this is. Notice how you're... Day 6 micro challenge. Tell one person about your one thing. Out loud. Watch their reaction. Notice if you feel defensive or uncertain. That's information about how certain you really are. Day 7 micro challenge. Schedule your weekly review for tomorrow. Put it in your calendar. Make it non-negotiable. This is when you'll assess your focus for the week. Day 8 micro challenge. Conduct your first weekly review. Look at the last 7 days. How many hours did you spend on your one thing? How many hours on distractions? Write down the numbers. Don't judge. Just measure. Day 9 micro challenge. Identify your biggest distraction from the past week. The thing that stole the most time from your one thing. Create one specific barrier to that distraction. If it's social media, delete the app. If it's a person, have a conversation. If it's a habit, change your environment. Day 10 micro challenge. Work on your one thing for 30 minutes without stopping. No bathroom break, no water, no checking your phone. 30 minutes of pure focus. Notice how your brain rebels around mine at 15. Push through. Day 11 micro challenge. Write a goodbye letter to one desire on your kill list. Be specific about why you're releasing it. Be honest about how it served you. Be clear that it's over. This is ceremony. This is closure. Day 12 micro challenge. Fast from one input for the day. No news or no podcasts or no music. Whatever fills your auditory space constantly. Experience silence. Notice what arises. Day 13 micro challenge. Do something difficult related to your one thing. The thing you've been avoiding, the hard conversation, the scary outreach, the vulnerable share. Do it today. Prove to yourself that you can do hard things. Day 14 micro challenge. Review your calendar for the next 2 weeks. Cancel or decline one thing that doesn't serve your one thing. Reclaim that time. Protect it fiercely. Day 15 micro challenge. You're at the halfway point of this sequence. Celebrate. Do something small that acknowledges your commitment. Not a distraction. An acknowledgement. Maybe it's a nice meal. Maybe it's a walk in nature. Maybe it's buying a tool that supports your one thing. Mark this moment. Day 16 micro challenge. Reach out to someone who's 1 or 2 steps ahead of you on the same path. Ask them one question about navigating the plateau. Learn from their experience. Build your support network. Day 17 micro challenge. Audit your physical environment. Is your space set up to support your one thing or to support distraction? Make one change today that makes working on your one thing easier. Remove one thing that creates friction. Day 18 micro challenge. Double your focus time today. If you usually work 1 hour on your one thing, do 2. If you usually do 2, do 4. Test your capacity. See what's possible when you push. Day 19 micro challenge. Write down 3 small wins from your work on your one thing this week. Things you learned. Problems you solved. Progress you made. Put this in your wins journal. Train your brain to see progress even when it's small. Day 20 micro challenge. Practice saying no out loud 5 times today. In front of a mirror. To practice situations. No thank you. That doesn't align with my priorities right now. No thank you, I'm focused on something else. Just no. Get comfortable with the word. Day 21 micro challenge. This is the danger zone day from your monastery month. The day most people quit. Today you're going to do a recommitment ritual. Reread your why statement. Reread the card in your wallet. Look at your progress. Decide again to keep going. Say it out loud. I'm committed. I'm not quitting. I'm seeing this through. Day 22 micro challenge. Fast from your phone for 12 waking hours. Put it in a drawer. Tell people you'll be unreachable. Experience what it's like to be fully present with your one thing without any digital interruption. Day 23 micro challenge. Do your second weekly review. Compare this week to last week. Are you spending more time on your one thing? Is the quality of your focus improving? What needs to adjust for next week? Day 24 micro challenge. Write a letter to yourself from 6 months in the future. Your future self has stayed focused. What do they want current you to know? What do they thank you for? What advice do they have? Let your future self encourage your present self. Day 25 micro challenge. Teach something about your one thing to someone else. Doesn't matter if you're an expert. Teaching clarifies your thinking. Teaching reveals gaps. Teaching deepens learning. Find someone who's curious and share what you know. Day 26 micro challenge. Identify one thing you're doing related to your one thing that's not actually moving it forward. Sometimes we stay busy with adjacent tasks to avoid the hardcore work. What's your avoidance task? Stop doing it. Redirect that energy to the real work. Day 27 Micro Challenge. Look at your budget. Calculate exactly how much money you need per month to cover essentials. Just essentials. This is your freedom number. How many hours per week do you need to work to hit that number? This math determines how much time you can protect for your one thing. Day 28 Micro Challenge. Create your relapse protocol. Write down exactly what you'll do when you notice you're losing focus. Who you'll call. What you'll read. What actions you'll take. Put this somewhere visible. You'll need it eventually. Day 29 Micro Challenge. Update your someday maybe list. Review everything you've captured there. Are any of these still calling to you? Probably not. Cross them out. Feel the freedom of letting them go. Day 30 Micro Challenge. This is completion day. You've done 30 days of focus training. Today you're going to plan your next 30. You're going to look at what worked, what didn't, what you'll continue, what you'll adjust. You're going to decide if you're going to do another 30-day sequence or if you're going to shift to a maintenance mode. Either way, you're going to acknowledge that you showed up for 30 days. That's not nothing. That's everything. Most people can't do this. You did. That means you can keep doing it. Write yourself a completion certificate if that feels right. Mark this milestone. You've trained your focus muscle for a month. You're different than you were 30 days ago. You're more focused, more committed, more clear. This is who you're becoming. Now let's talk about the multiplication effect in much more depth, because this is the promise I made you at the beginning, and I want you to understand how it actually works. The promise is that wanting less gets you more, that focusing on one desire creates 10 opportunities. This sounds paradoxical. How can doing less give you more? The logic of scarcity says you should maximize options. The logic of abundance says you should maximize depth. Scarcity thinking tells you to keep every door open because you don't know which one will pay off. Abundance thinking tells you to walk through one door fully because that's how you discover what's on the other side. Scarcity creates scattered effort. Abundance creates focused depth. Scattered effort produces scattered results. Focused depth produces multiplication. Here's the mechanism. When you go deep into one domain, you become one of the few people who really understand it. Most people are generalists by default. They know a little about a lot. They're competent but not exceptional. They're replaceable. When you focus on your one thing for years, you become irreplaceable in that specific domain. You see patterns nobody else sees. You solve problems nobody else can solve. You create value nobody else creates. This depth makes you valuable in a way that breadth never can. And valuable people attract opportunities. Not just any opportunities. The right opportunities. The opportunities that align with their expertise. The opportunities that compound their advantage. Let me give you a detailed example. There's a woman I know who spent 7 years becoming the world's expert on a very narrow topic. How to help software companies transition from founder-led sales to sales team models. That's it. That's all she focused on. She didn't consult on generic business strategy. She didn't coach on leadership. She didn't do marketing. She did one thing: help software companies build their first sales team. For the first 3 years, this seemed limiting. She turned down work that didn't fit. She said no to opportunities that would have paid well, but would have been adjacent. She stayed narrow. She went deep. By year 4, something interesting started happening. The companies she worked with started succeeding. They'd hire her. She'd help them build their sales team. The team would perform. The company would grow. Those companies started referring her, but not just to anyone, to other software companies at the exact same stage who needed the exact same thing. By year 7, she had worked with over 60 software companies. She knew this problem better than anyone in the world. She'd seen every variation. She'd solved every challenge. She'd developed a methodology that worked reliably. Now here's where the multiplication kicked in. First, she wrote a book. Not a generic business book. A very specific book on this very specific problem. It became the definitive resource for her niche. That book brought her more clients. Second, she created a course. Not a broad course, a specific course teaching her methodology. That course generated passive income and qualified leads. Third, she started getting invited to speak at software conferences. Not generic business conferences, software conferences, where her ideal clients gathered. Fourth, she got approached by venture capital firms. They wanted her to consult with their 7 years focused on one narrow thing created 6 different revenue streams, all aligned, all building on each other, all flowing from her depth. If she'd stayed generalist, she'd still be hustling for clients. She'd be competing on price. She'd be replaceable. Instead, she's the expert. She can charge premium rates. She can choose her clients. She can work less and earn more. This is multiplication. This is what happens when you focus on one thing long enough to become undeniable. The opportunities don't stop. They multiply. They get better. They align. They compound. But it only works if you go deep first. If you stay shallow and scattered, you'll always be hustling. If you go deep and focused, eventually the opportunities come to you. Now I need to address a fear that's probably arising as you listen to this. What if you choose wrong? What if you spend 5 years focused on the wrong one thing? What if you commit fully and then realize it wasn't your true desire? This fear is legitimate, but it's also often an excuse. Your brain uses this fear to keep you from committing. It says, better to keep your options open than to risk going deep on the wrong thing. This logic is backwards. The cost of choosing wrong is you spent 5 years building deep expertise in something that turned out not to be your forever thing. The cost of not choosing is you spent 5 years building shallow competence in 10 things and mastery in none. Which is worse? At least if you go deep on something, even if it's not your ultimate thing, you develop the skill of going deep. You learn what focus feels like. You build the identity of someone who commits and completes. You create proof that you can do hard things. These are transferable. These make your next commitment easier. But let's address the choosing wrong fear more directly. How do you know if your one thing is the right one thing? Here are the signs. First, it's still calling you after 6 months of focused effort. If you've been working on something for 6 months and you're still excited about it, that's signal. Interest fades. Certainty persists. Second, you're willing to be bad at it for a while. True desire doesn't require immediate competence. You're willing to be a beginner. You're willing to be embarrassed. You're willing to struggle. If you need to be good immediately, it's probably ego, not desire. Third, you think about it when you don't have to. Your mind naturally goes there. You have ideas in the shower. You connect everything back to it. This is your subconscious telling you it matters. Fourth, you're jealous when you see others succeeding at it. Not competitive. Jealous. You wish you were doing what they're doing. That jealousy is information. It's pointing you toward your thing. Fifth, when you imagine your future self, this is what they're doing. Your vision of who you're becoming includes this work. If all 5 of these are true, you've probably chosen right. If several are missing, maybe you need to choose again, and that's okay. Better to choose again than to never choose at all. Let me tell you a story about someone who chose, committed, realized it was wrong, and chose again without losing years. There's a guy I know who thought his one thing was building a tech startup. He had an idea. He went all in. He quit his job. He lived on savings. He spent 18 months building. He did everything right from a focus perspective. He wasn't scattered. He was committed. But around month 18, he realized something. He didn't actually enjoy it. He enjoyed the idea of building a company. He enjoyed the status of being a founder, but the actual work, the managing people, the fundraising, the constant firefighting, he hated it. It was draining him. It felt wrong in his body. This is important information. He paid attention to it. He didn't push through with toxic positivity. He didn't tell himself he just needed to work harder. He got honest. This wasn't his thing, so he shut down the startup. Some people said he wasted 18 months. He didn't. He learned that he loved building products but hated building companies. He loved coding but hated managing. He loved solving technical problems but hated solving people problems. This clarity was worth 18 months, so he chose again. His new one thing was becoming a senior engineer at a company building products he cared about. Not starting the company, working at one. He found a company whose mission aligned with his values. He joined as an IC contributor. He went deep into the technical work. He became exceptional at his craft. 5 years later, he's a principal engineer. He makes more money than he would have if his startup had succeeded moderately. He has zero stress from running a company. He works on problems he loves. He made the right choice the second time, but he only got to the right choice by committing to the wrong choice fully enough to learn it was wrong. If he'd hedged, if he'd kept his job and done the startup part-time, he'd probably still be doing it. He'd never have learned. He'd never have pivoted. Full commitment is what created the clarity. So yes, you might choose wrong. But choosing wrong and learning is better than not choosing and wandering. Choose, commit, pay attention, adjust if needed. This is the process. It's not linear. It's iterative. But it requires that you actually choose and commit, not endlessly explore possibilities. Exploration without commitment is just sophisticated procrastination. It's your brain avoiding the vulnerability of focusing. Don't let that be your pattern. Choose. Go deep. Course correct if necessary, but always be going deep on something. Now let's talk about legacy, because this is ultimately what singular desire creates, and this is what makes all the sacrifice worth it. Legacy is not about being famous. Legacy is not about being remembered. Legacy is about impact that outlives you. Legacy is about creating something that continues after you're gone. Legacy is about making the world different because you were in it. You cannot build legacy with scattered attention. You cannot build legacy by dabbling. You cannot build legacy by being good at 10 things. Legacy comes from being exceptional at one thing. Legacy comes from going so deep that you change how people think or work or live. Legacy comes from creating a body of work that stands the test of time. Ask yourself this. What do you want to exist in the world that doesn't exist yet? What problem do you want to solve that hasn't been solved? What beauty do you want to create that hasn't been created? What knowledge do you want to generate that hasn't been generated? What shift do you want to cause that hasn't been caused? This is your legacy question. This is what your one thing should serve. If your singular desire doesn't connect to something bigger than you, it might not be the right desire. Or maybe it is the right desire, but you haven't articulated its larger purpose yet. Dig deeper. Why does this matter? Who does it serve? What changes if you succeed? Your one thing should be bigger than you. It should matter beyond your lifetime. It should be something that, if you succeed, makes things better for other people. This doesn't mean you have to cure cancer or end poverty or write the great American novel. Those are all great, but legacy can be smaller scale. Maybe you're a teacher and your legacy is the hundreds of students whose lives you changed through your teaching. Maybe you're a craftsperson and your legacy is the furniture you built that will outlive you by generations. Maybe you're a parent and your legacy is raising children who go on to do meaningful things. Maybe you're a coach and your legacy is the people you helped become who they were meant to be. Scale doesn't determine legacy. Impact does. Did you change things for the better in your domain? Did you leave it better than you found it? That's legacy. But here's the key. You can only create legacy if you focus long enough to build depth. Surface-level work doesn't last. It gets forgotten. It gets replaced. Deep work endures. It becomes reference. It becomes foundational. It becomes the thing that others build on. Think about the people whose work has lasted, not the people who were famous for a moment. The people whose work is still relevant decades or centuries later. What do they have in common? They went deep. They stayed focused. They built a body of work, not a collection of random projects. Newton, Curie, Einstein, Mozart, Shakespeare, Hemingway, O'Keeffe. They had a thing. They did that thing. They kept doing it. They went so deep that their work became timeless. You have that same capacity. You just have to choose your thing and refuse to let go of it. Let me give you a modern example of someone building legacy through singular focus. There's a podcaster I know who started his show 8 years ago. Same format, same length, same release schedule, every single week for 8 years. Over 400 episodes, all on the same topic. Deep dives into how creative people build their craft. That's it. He doesn't talk about current events. He doesn't chase trends. He doesn't diversify into video or courses or consulting. He just does the podcast. Same quality, same depth, every week. Now that podcast is the definitive resource in its niche. People in that creative field all know it. They all listen. They all reference it. He's interviewed everyone who matters in that space. His archive is a library. His body of work is substantial. He's creating legacy, not because he's the most talented, not because he had advantages, because he focused, because he stayed, because he went deep. 8 years of singular focus is creating something that will outlive him. People will be learning from his archive for decades. That's legacy. That's what happens when you commit. Now I want to talk to you directly about your own legacy, about what's possible for you if you apply everything in this audiobook. Imagine it's 10 years from now. You've spent the last decade focused on your one thing. You didn't scatter. You didn't give up during the plateau. You survived the doubt. You ignored the criticism. You said no to the distractions. You showed up every day. You did the work. What have you created? What does your body of work look like? How many people have you impacted? How has your domain changed because you were in it? Let yourself feel into this. Let the vision become vivid. This is not fantasy. This is possibility. This is available to you, but only if you choose, only if you focus, only if you commit, only if you apply the art of certain desire. Here's what I know. Most people listening to this will not apply it. They'll think it's interesting. They'll agree with the concepts. They'll feel inspired for a few days. Then they'll drift back to scattered attention. They'll keep their 10 goals. They'll keep hedging. They'll keep exploring. They'll end the year with 40 partial efforts and 0 complete victories. Just like last year, just like the year before. This will be most people, but not everyone. A few people will actually do this. They'll identify their one thing. They'll kill everything else. They'll design their monastery month. They'll survive the plateau. They'll build their legacy. They'll look back in 10 years and realize that this audiobook was the inflection point. The moment everything changed. The moment they stopped scattering and started focusing. I'm talking to those few people right now. I'm talking to you. You know who you are. You've felt it this whole time. This audiobook isn't new information for you. It's permission. It's validation. It's the push you needed. You've always known you needed to focus. You've always known what your one thing is. You've just been afraid to commit. You've been telling yourself that you need more time, more clarity, more resources, more permission. You don't. You have enough time. You have enough clarity. You have enough resources. And I'm giving you permission right now. Choose your thing. Kill everything else. Start building your legacy today, not tomorrow. Not after you finish one more project. Not after you explore one more option. Today, right now, as soon as this audiobook ends. This is your moment. This is your call. This is your opportunity to stop being someone with potential and start being someone with a body of work. Let's do one final visualization. Close your eyes if you can. Soften your gaze if you can't. Take 3 deep breaths. In through your nose. Hold. Out through your mouth. Now imagine yourself 5 years from now. 5 years of singular focus. 5 years of saying no to distractions and yes to your one thing. 5 years of showing up every day. 5 years of building. What does that version of you look like? How do they carry themselves? What have they created? What impact have they had? What do they know that current you doesn't know? How do they feel when they wake up? Who are the people around them? What opportunities do they have? What does their day look like? Let the image become vivid. Let it become real. Feel it in your body. Notice how that version of you moves through the world. Notice their confidence. Notice their clarity. Notice their peace. That person is not a fantasy. That person is a possibility. That person becomes actual when you make the choice today. Hold that image. Breathe into it. Let it anchor into your nervous system. That is your future self. They are waiting for you. They are possible. They are calling you forward. Open your eyes, come back. Remember what you saw. That person is who you become when you finally stop scattering your energy and start consolidating it. Here's my final message to you. The world does not need more scattered people. The world has plenty of those. The world needs people who finish things. The world needs people who go deep. The world needs people who commit fully. The world needs people who choose their one thing and build it with such focus and intensity that they create something undeniable. You can be that person. You have the capacity. You have the time. You have the energy. What you've been lacking is the permission to focus. What you've been lacking is the framework to commit. What you've been lacking is the belief that singular desire actually works. Consider this your permission. Consider this your framework. Consider this your proof. Singular desire works. Less wanting gets you more. Focusing on one thing creates 10 opportunities. Subtraction delivers abundance. This is not theory. This is pattern. This is how exceptional results happen. This is available to you, but only if you choose. The art of certain desire is not about restriction. It's about liberation. It's about freeing yourself from the tyranny of infinite options. It's about discovering what you're truly capable of when you stop dividing your energy. It's about the deep satisfaction of becoming instead of the shallow pleasure of browsing. It's about legacy instead of likes. It's about mastery instead of familiarity. It's about going so deep into one thing that you come out the other side transformed. This is available to you. This is waiting for you. The only question is whether you're ready to choose. Whether you're ready to kill your wish list and birth your one true want. Whether you're ready to stop being a person with goals and start being the embodiment of your singular desire. That's the transformation this audiobook offers. That's the promise. But promises don't deliver themselves. You have to deliver them. You have to take what you've learned and turn it into what you do. You have to take this information and turn it into transformation. So here we are, the end of this audiobook, but potentially the beginning of your focused life. You have the framework. You have the strategies. You have the relapse-proofing plan. You have the 30-day micro-challenges. You have the permission. You have the proof. You have everything you need. What you do next is entirely up to you. You can let this be another interesting audiobook you listen to, or you can let this be the inflection point where everything changed. The difference between those two outcomes is action. The difference is commitment. The difference is choosing your one thing and refusing to unchoose it when it gets hard, because it will get hard. The plateau is real. The resistance is real. The social pressure is real. But so is the reward. So is the satisfaction. So is the legacy. So is the life you actually want. This is the art of certain desire, not knowing what you want, choosing what you want, not pursuing everything, killing everything except one thing, not staying balanced, going extreme in service of your truth, not keeping your options open, closing all doors except the one that matters, not being good at many things, being exceptional at one thing, not having a full life, having a focused life, not chasing 10 goals, reaching them all by chasing one. You're ready. You've always been ready. You've just been waiting for permission to focus. You have it now. Your one thing is calling. It's been calling for years, maybe decades. It's time to answer. It's time to go all in. It's time to discover what happens when you finally stop scattering your energy and start consolidating it. It's time to build the thing only you can build. It's time to become the person only you can become. Everything else is noise. Your one thing is signal. Follow the signal. Trust the process. Do the work. Survive the plateau. Build the legacy. The life you want is on the other side of your commitment. Go get it. The world is waiting for what only you can create. Stop waiting. Start building. Choose your one thing today, not tomorrow. Today. This is your moment. This is your call. Answer it.